The silver gift boxes in the back seat looked almost too perfect to be real. A custom diamond bracelet rested inside the velvet case, beside a handwritten letter I had spent 3 nights rewriting. 5 years of marriage deserved something unforgettable, and I wanted to surprise Emily at her office before taking her to the rooftop restaurant where our anniversary dinner waited. Every reservation had been made weeks in advance. Fresh roses filled the passenger seat. Soft music played through the speakers, and I kept imagining the look on her face when she saw me standing in the lobby. I had no idea those flowers would never leave the car. The headquarters of Harrison Global was buzzing with employees preparing for an afternoon celebration. Balloons decorated the reception area. Waiters carried trays of champagne, and laughter echoed to the polished marble halls. The receptionist smiled when I introduced myself as Emily's husband and pointed me toward the executive floor. Nobody questioned why I was there. Why would they? I was carrying gifts wrapped in gold paper and wearing the same suit Emily had once said made me look like the man she dreamed of marrying. My heart raced with excitement as the elevator doors slowly opened to the sound of applause. The conference room was packed with executives, department managers, and investors. Emily stood near the front wearing a stunning white business suit I had never seen before. She looked confident, radiant, and completely different from the exhausted woman who always claimed she was working late every night. Before I could call her name, she noticed me. For a split second, surprise flashed across her face. Then, instead of walking toward me, she forced an awkward smile, turned to the tall man beside her, wrapped her arm around his, and laughed loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Everyone," she announced proudly, "meet my future husband, Mr. Harrison." The room exploded with polite laughter, assuming it was some harmless joke. Mine didn't. My entire body froze as if every drop of blood had turned into ice. The CEO smiled confidently and extended his hand toward me without recognizing who I was. Emily looked directly into my eyes and spoke words that sliced deeper than any knife ever could. "David, I didn't expect you here today. We were going to talk tonight." She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't afraid. She looked relieved, almost excited that the truth had finally surfaced. In that single moment, 5 years of trust collapsed into complete silence. I never shouted. I never dropped the gifts or demanded answers. Instead, I smiled politely, placed the anniversary presents on a nearby table, wished everyone a wonderful afternoon, and quietly walked back toward the elevator. Behind me, I could hear whispers beginning to spread as employees slowly realized who I actually was. Emily called my name once, but I never looked back. By the time I reached the parking garage, my hands had stopped shaking. The pain was still there, burning through my chest, but another emotion had begun replacing it. Clarity. Absolute, terrifying clarity. As I sat inside my car, I opened our shared financial account on my phone. Years earlier, Emily had insisted everything remain under my management because she hated dealing with paperwork. Every major purchase, every mortgage payment, every insurance policy, every investment portfolio, every luxury membership, every subscription, every vehicle title, and even the apartment lease traced back to businesses and accounts legally registered under my name. She had always laughed, saying, "You're better with money than I am." She had never bothered reading the documents she signed. That careless confidence was about to become the biggest mistake of her life. I didn't act out of anger. I acted with precision. One phone call canceled every premium credit card linked to my accounts. Another transferred my investment holdings into newly protected trusts. My attorney received a single text message: "Start immediately." Within an hour, divorce papers were being prepared alongside notices, removing authorized access to every asset I legally owned. The luxury SUV she drove? Mine. The penthouse she proudly showed off online? Mine. The designer furniture, the memberships, the insurance policies, even the company shares I had quietly purchased years earlier? All mine. While Emily celebrated her future husband upstairs, she had no idea her entire world had already begun disappearing, piece by piece. The next morning, I woke before sunrise with a calm I hadn't felt in years. There were no frantic messages on my phone because I had muted every notification before going to bed. I made coffee, reviewed the documents my attorney had emailed overnight, and signed each one without hesitation. By noon, the divorce petition had been filed. At exactly 2:15 p.m., the property management company received instructions to terminate Emily's access to the penthouse. The luxury SUV's tracking service was activated, and the bank confirmed every joint card had been frozen. Nothing illegal, nothing emotional, just quiet, irreversible decisions backed by years of paperwork she had never bothered to understand. Around 4 that afternoon, my phone finally lit up. Emily called once, then twice. By the 10th missed call, she switched to frantic text messages. "David, what did you do? My cards are declining." A minute later came another. "Security won't let me into the apartment. They're saying my access has been revoked." I stared at the screen for several seconds before locking my phone again. 4 or 5 years, I had answered every call, fixed every problem, and sacrificed every comfort to keep our life together. This time, silence became my answer. Sometimes the loudest response isn't spoken at all. The real shock came 48 hours later. My attorney informed me that Harrison Global had quietly launched an internal ethics investigation. Apparently, several board members had witnessed Emily introducing the CEO as her future husband while she was still legally married. Someone in that conference room had recorded the entire moment and anonymously forwarded the video to the company's board of directors. What had seemed like a glamorous public announcement suddenly looked like a massive corporate liability. Investors began asking uncomfortable questions, and the board demanded immediate explanations from the CEO himself. 3 days after our anniversary, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it until curiosity won. "Mr. Carter?" a calm voice asked. "This is Richard Harrison." The confident CEO from the conference room sounded nothing like the man I'd met. "I'd like to meet. There are things I didn't know." We agreed to meet in a quiet hotel lounge the following afternoon. When he arrived, he looked exhausted, his expensive suit unable to hide the stress on his face. Before I could speak, he slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of emails, expense reports, and messages Emily had sent him over the past year. "I didn't know she was still living with you," Harrison admitted quietly. "She told me you had been separated for almost a year and were only delaying the paperwork because of financial issues." He leaned back with visible frustration. "She also claimed most of the assets were hers and that you were controlling everything." I looked at him for a long moment before handing him certified copies of our marriage certificate, property deeds, financial statements, and a divorce filing dated the day after the office incident. His expression changed instantly. The confidence disappeared, replaced by disbelief. For the first time, I realized he hadn't been playing me. He'd been played too. A week later, the story exploded inside the company. The ethics committee concluded that Emily had misrepresented her marital status and used her relationship with the CEO to gain professional advantages. Harrison, determined to protect both his reputation and the company, publicly ended the relationship and cooperated fully with the investigation. Emily was terminated before the month ended. The CEO survived with formal reprimand, but Emily lost everything she had gambled her future on. The promotion she expected vanished overnight. So did the man she had introduced as her future husband. In chasing a fantasy, she had destroyed the life she already had. Nearly 2 months later, I received one final voicemail. Emily's voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. She admitted she had mistaken stability for weakness and excitement for love. She confessed that she believed I would always forgive her because I always had before. She begged for one meeting, one conversation, one chance to explain. I deleted the voicemail without replying. Some apologies arrive only after consequences do, and by then they no longer change anything. The greatest revenge had never been taking things away. It had been refusing to become the bitter man she expected me to become. On the anniversary that should have broken me, I found myself standing on the balcony of a different apartment, watching the city lights flicker beneath the evening sky. The diamond bracelet still rested unopened in its velvet box. I donated it to a charity auction supporting families rebuilding after hardship, turning a painful memory into someone else's blessing. Looking back, I realized I hadn't erased Emily's life out of revenge. I had simply reclaimed a life I had built with my own hands. She introduced another man as her future husband in front of an entire office. I said nothing. I didn't need to, because while she was busy replacing me, I was quietly rewriting the ending of my own story, and that ending became the beginning of a far better life.